1910s, Hartford, Connecticut. The witty remarks of one of America's greatest authors once filled these chambers. This evening, a tour guide flicks off the illumination and inquires, quote, "Zero, quote, constructed as an ideal retreat. This dwelling," witnessed Twain sharing chuckles with his girls, crafting his novels and envisioning it as his lifelong sanctuary. Within these spaces stood holiday evergreens, elegant meals alongside renowned visitors, and boisterous tales around the hearth. Then struck the initial hardship, a young one's sickness, from which she would never recover. Next came financial ruin. Unpaid loans, botched ventures, vanished wealth. Finally, the hardest choice, one that chokes the breath, abandoning the home now steeped not in happiness but in sorrow. Twain's estate gets leased, subdivided into workspaces, converted into modest flats. The grand family abode morphs into an eerie, shadowy labyrinth where locals murmur of nocturnal tread and a young girl's silhouette on the steps. Years pass and plans emerge to demolish it entirely for mere parking spaces. Yet in that dire moment, a final savior steps forward. What transformed the birthplace of humor into its own haunting legend? And how, defying every expectation, did it evade total erasure? Chapter 1. The dwelling that rang with mirth before silence descended. The guide's fingers hover over the switch. Shadows engulf the parlor in Mark Twain's Hartford mansion. 24 guests remain motionless. Beyond the walls, vehicles rumble along Farmington Avenue. Within, the quiet seems ancient, deeper than the road itself. Can a home hold on to mourning? The leader poses. The words linger. A visitor fidgets uneasily. A smartphone flares briefly, then dims. The narrative continues. Here in this space, Samuel Clemens, known as Mark Twain, recited tales to his 3 girls each night. They gathered precisely by that hearth. He sparked their joy. He delighted the nation. He pauses, letting the scene linger. Yet in 1896, his oldest child, Susie, passed away above. Age 24, meningitis. Her folks weren't even present. Following that evening, the laughter ceased forever. The bulbs flicker alive once more. The excursion presses on. The group shuffles into the game room by intricate timberwork and colorful panes, ascending the majestic stairs. They snap pictures, they scan inscriptions, they depart. But one lingers. She's Maya, 28, an architecture blogger, sling bag with gear across her back, jotter in grip. She'd arrived in Hartford seeking material. A renowned author's opulent abode, Victorian splendor, vivid shots, routine fare. The guide's account hadn't struck so profoundly. Maya had buried her dad 2 years back. Her kin offloaded his place swiftly. Maintenance costs too steep, memories too raw. She'd avoided dwelling on it for weeks, until this instant. Solo in the entrance foyer, she gazes at the ornate timber steps. The waning sun pierces the mosaic glass, scattering crimson and azure hues over the tiles. Folks claim a casket descended these very stairs in 1896, Susie's form exiting for the last time. Her dad toured lectures in England, frantic to clear the burdens weighing him down. Her mom, Olivia, accompanied him. The baby girl, Jean, was elsewhere. Just Clara, the second-born, arrived promptly. Susie slipped away in her girlhood chamber, feverish and rambling for her guardians. The residents couldn't shield her. Celebrity couldn't. Funds, what scraps were left, couldn't. A pang grips Maya's heart. She drifts into the supper area. The extended board gleams with era-specific dishware, ready as if the Clemens clan might stroll in for a meal, though they never truly resettled. Post Susie's passing, they revisited Hartford but once fleetingly to gather belongings. Then they vanished permanently. The estate went to tenants. Outsiders occupied it. Chambers that hosted the nation's premier clan turned into faceless lodgings, professional quarters, utility areas. Into the 1920s, one might lease a bargain nook here, oblivious to the echoes of past glee in the corridors. Maya glances at her timepiece. The exhibit shuts in 60 minutes, enough for another circuit. She ascends the rear flight, tighter and more abrupt than the lavish front one. These serve the help. Rumor holds 6 or 7 retainers resided and toiled here in the Clemens era. Chefs, cleaners, a driver. Their identities largely forgotten. Upstairs, she discovers Susie's sleeping quarters. The entrance stands ajar. The chamber feels modest in size, unexpectedly simple amid the elaborate areas below. It holds just a lone bed, a modest writing table, and wallpaper adorned with flowers, now softened by time, yet thoughtfully revived. Maya pauses at the threshold. Here marked the conclusion. The vision for the home, the security of youth, the illusion that achievement and affection could shield one from life's harshness. She snaps a picture, then tucks her phone aside. Beyond the panes, the chill November breeze shakes the frames. The structure groans softly in response. Downstairs, the remaining guests are departing. Maya reflects. I arrived seeking a tale of design, yet this transcends stone and timber. It's the unraveling of aspirations, the dwelling transformed into a tribute to all that slipped away. She pivots to leave, but hesitates. Upon the petite desk rests a copy of one of Susie's missives. Maya bends in to peruse it. The script appears meticulous, optimistic, a youthful lady envisioning her prospects she would never claim. Chapter 2. Building a Dream in Brick and Ghostly Blue. Maya exits Susie's quarters and descends the grand stairway at a leisurely pace, her fingers gliding over the sculpted railing. Each element in this residence was selected with intent. Every shade, every arch of timber, every segment of colored glass. An individual desired this entirety, orchestrated it, held faith in it. She ponders, what vision did Mark Twain hold upon first gazing at this bare slope in Hartford, 1873? Farmington Avenue lies as a muddy track pocked with cart grooves. The elevation surveys the town, though vacancy reigns here still. Only gusts, meadows, and the faint pulse of mills and steeples from afar. Samuel Clemens positions himself alongside his spouse, Olivia, and designer Edward Tuckerman Potter. At 37, Clemens enjoys renown, affluence, and an eagerness to erect something enduring. He envisions a dwelling brimming with wit, brightness, and the sounds of youngsters. Potter jots concepts onto paper. Clemens interjects repeatedly with his imaginings. Position the billiard area atop with expansive views. Link the study to the meal hall for seamless conversation during meals. Encircle the veranda like the deck of a river vessel. Olivia focuses elsewhere. Security, coziness, a stable haven for their trio of girls to mature distant from the clamor of inns and leased spaces. The expense proves considerable. Initial estimates hover near $45,000. Completion will push it toward $70,000. In 1874, a sum rivaling vast wealth. Yet, Clemens exudes confidence. His novels thrive in sales. His speeches draw crowds. Funds arrive as swiftly as he disperses them. The designer agrees, refines his drawings, and records details. Soon, comprehensive blueprints emerge. The edifice emerges gradually. Foundations first. Masonry and blocks embedded firmly in the local soil. Next, the exteriors. Crimson bricks interlaced with ebony and amber motifs across the front. The aesthetic blends influences. Gothic elements, Victorian flair, a touch of riverboat fancy. Potter deems it contemporary Gothic, though it evades tidy classification. Undeniably, it stands unparalleled among Hartford's homes. Laborers, transport timber and panes uphill. Bricklayers assemble in elaborate designs. Woodworkers craft railings and portals. The building materializes level by level, space by space. Clemens inspects frequently. He strides across unfinished resonant voids, picturing placements for furnishings, scenes of his girls at play. He banters with the crew, sharing quips. Many probably remain unaware they're crafting for Mark Twain. Of a stained glass arrive from Louis Comfort. Of stained glass arrive from Louis Comfort Tiffany. The parlor gains walls clad in tooled hide and lacquered panels. The study receives towering racks for volumes. Clemens demands cutting-edge conveniences, flowing water in multiple areas, radiant warmth centrally, illumination by gas everywhere. Eventually, a phone line upon invention. This abode shall embody progress and ease, evidence that the nation can rival Europe's finest estates. Olivia selects coverings and textiles. She arranges placements for bedding and seating. She contemplates dawn rays in the children's area, and twilight glows by the parlor blaze. The labor extends across seasons. Grasping the origins and motives behind this creation requires insight into the rising star who commissioned it. Clemens pens tales of the nation's avarice, its levity, its paradoxes, and upon this Hartford rise, he constructs his personal microcosm of America. A realm where drive and ease coexist, where offspring of a river navigator can dwell as elite of the East. By 1874, the residence suffices for occupancy. Pieces of furniture unload, carpets spread over gleaming surfaces, volumes populate the racks, flames crackle in each fireplace. The Clemens household crosses the entryway as owners at last. 3 girls, Susie, the oldest, just 2, Clara, mere months old. Their son Langdon had passed away just 2 years prior, at only 19 months old. The sorrow remains fresh and raw. Upward at the grand staircase, the vibrant upward at the grand staircase, the vibrant stained glass windows, and the ornate painted ceilings. Clemens drapes his arm around her shoulders. "We've made it," he murmurs. She gives a quiet nod of agreement. They trust that this residence will embrace them, shield them from harm, and serve as the unshakable anchor of their existence. Over 100 years afterward, Maya lingers in that very same entryway and grasps the truth they couldn't foresee. The home will cradle them for 17 years before releasing its hold. Chapter 3. Filled with joy and echoes of mirth. Maya enters the library and pauses, struck by its vitality. Unlike the other spaces, volumes stack from the baseboards to the rafters. On typical nights, flames would crackle in the hearth. The seating, arranged in intimate clusters, suggests the household has merely stepped away briefly and could reappear at any moment. She pictures the scene vividly. Samuel Clemens reciting passages with flair, modulating his tone for every figure in the tale. His 3 girls nestled on plush cushions, their gazes intent and captivated. Olivia seated nearby, absorbed and beaming softly. For those 17 years, the dwelling fulfilled their every vision. By the close of 1874, arrive in this very house in 1880. They arrive in this very house in 1880. The daughters mature, amid romps through the chambers, hurtling down the railings, and concealing themselves in wardrobes amid playful pursuits that reverberate along the corridors. Upstairs, Clemens labors in the billiard room. He composes at a modest writing table by the pane, surveying the Hartford cityscape beyond. Accounts describe it as his preferred retreat within the dwelling. He strides back and forth to mull ideas. Between bursts of writing, he cues up a billiard shot and plays a round. To capture the cadence, he vocalizes his manuscripts aloud. In this space emerge the escapades of Tom Sawyer, followed by The Prince and the Pauper, and then Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. These works destined to define American letters materialize within the bustling Victorian estate perched atop the hill. Below, the abode pulses with everyday rhythms. Morning meals unfold in the formal dining area. The children receive instruction in the dedicated study space. Olivia oversees the servants, schedules, and domestic finances. The kitchen staff crafts the day's cuisine, while housemaids clean, buff surfaces, repair fabrics, and the stable hands care for the steeds in the rear outbuilding. Sustaining such a grand property demands substantial labor. Around 6 or 7 employees labor here around the clock. Supplies like food, fuel, coal, illuminating gas, and upkeep costs accumulate endlessly, yet funds continue to flow in steadily. Clemens delivers public talks. His publications thrive in sales. Fresh ventures hint at even greater profits ahead. The household establishes cherished traditions. Nightly, they convene in the library for storytelling sessions. Clemens enacts the narrative more than simply narrating it, transforming text into lively drama. Each persona receives a unique inflection, mannerism, and posture. The daughters beg for an additional segment. He often relents with a grin. The holiday season enchants the entire structure. A towering evergreen dominates the entry, its top brushing the colorful glass overhead. Gifts accumulate under the limbs. Melodies of carols fill the air near the upright piano. Visitors stream in from New York, Boston, and as far as Europe. The interiors brim with chatter and delight. Clemens, by all reports, revels in entertaining. Authors, publishers, statesmen, performers, they're all invited to share his board. Evening repasts linger deep into the hours. Discussions leap from books to governance to cutting-edge gadgets and innovations. Clemens commands the gathering, spinning yarns that leave everyone in stitches. Occasionally, the girls peer down from the upper steps in their sleep attire, defying bedtime to soak in the sounds and glow from beneath. Susie develops into a reflective and earnest young one. She pens verses and maintains a diary. She observes her father keenly, detecting the weariness or concern hidden behind his humor. Clara proves outgoing and artistically inclined toward music. She hones her skills at the keys, performs songs, and flourishes amid the steady influx of company. Jean, the baby of the family, brims with energy and audacity. She dashes about the interior, scales the garden foliage, and unleashes a torrent of inquiries. Olivia endeavors to mold them into refined gentlewomen. Sessions on the piano, language in French, protocols of decorum. Clemens counters with encouragement for exploration. He fosters their inquisitiveness, bravery, and willingness to voice opinions freely. The residence soaks up every facet. The tidiness alongside the disarray, the elegant suppers paired with late-night frolics, the serene writing interludes contrasted with boisterous, deliberately. Every carpet seat artwork deliberately. Every carpet seat artwork adorning the walls, all curated meticulously. An individual poured passion into crafting this haven, striving for flawlessness. Yet flawlessness exacts a toll, and as Maya recalls from the guide's prior remarks, their finances were already beginning to erode. She snaps her journal shut and heads to the dining chamber. The expansive surface lies prepared for a banquet that fate would never allow. Sterling utensils catch the midday rays. Crystal chandeliers capture the sunlight, scattering bright flecks over the tablecloth. Maya tallies the settings. 12 in total, sufficient for the family plus a group of visitors. She ponders the countless suppers that unfolded in this space, the discussions that sparked and faded amid these dishes, the evenings when Clemens presided at the table's end, drawing laughter from all. Meanwhile, up in his office, unopened missives about mounting debts lingered. The home brimmed with mirth, yet beneath the humor and melodies, fissures were already forming. Chapter 4. Hairline cracks, jokes, debts, and strain. Maya traces her fingers over the smooth surface of the dining table, reflecting on upkeep. What fortune was required to maintain such lustrous wood? To warm each chamber, to compensate 6 servants steadily over months and years. She heads to Clemens's ground-floor study. Unlike the opulent library or parlor, this modest nook reveals a contrasting tale. The desk is unadorned. The seat shows signs of heavy use. Here, commerce transpired. Envelopes met the blade, invoices accumulated, figures defied control. In Hartford during the early 1880s, Mark Twain rides the crest of his renown. His novels fly off shelves in vast quantities. His speaking engagements pack venues throughout the U.S. and abroad. Reporters seek sound bites, periodicals run features. All crave a quip, a jest, a glimpse of the man. Yet, renown and riches differ sharply. The estate demands about $35,000 annually to sustain. Salaries for employees, fuel for stoves, gas illumination, fixes, levies, provisions for a home that hosts nonstop. Costs arrive relentlessly, without respite. Clemens profits handsomely, but outlays exceed. He dwells as if funds flow eternally, sinking cash into ventures with abandon, frequently unwise ones. He channels resources into James Page's innovative typesetting apparatus. The contraption vows to transform the print trade. Clemens bets it will yield fortunes. He backs Page's efforts across years, seeing outlays swell from thousands to tens of thousands, surpassing $200,000. The invention falters repeatedly. He launches his imprint, Charles L. Webster and Company. Initially, it thrives spectacularly. They release Ulysses S. Grant's Reminiscences, which move in enormous volumes. Clemens pockets substantial gains. Convinced he's uncovered a path to enduring prosperity, he presses on. But helming a press requires funds, dedication, and shrewd acumen. Clemens flares with zeal for captivating pursuits. His commercial expertise lags, reserves steadily dwindle. At soirees, he captivates, witty, incisive, hilarious, commanding the gathering. Attendees depart, buzzing over his anecdotes, his delivery, his warmth. In the study after dark, his complexion pales, his jaw clenches. He scans correspondence from editors, from Page, from lenders. He tallies and scrutinizes sums. Regardless of rearrangements, balances trend adversely. Olivia senses the pressure differently. Overseeing the residence falls to her. She directs the help, devises meal plans, sustains a bustling schedule of gatherings. Hospitality persists unabated. Prominent callers, Clemens urges, bolster trade, boost volumes, forge ties, but weariness grips her. The daughters mature. They require education, instrumental training, suitable attire, excursions. Susie proves delicate, frequently ailing. Jean endures unexplained, untreatable fits. Clara demands attention as well, though overshadowed by her sister's intensities. Olivia sustains the illusion of ease. Outwardly, all gleams. Meals materialize promptly. Utensils sparkle, blazes roar before shivers strike. Privately, she urges Clemens to trim expenses, reduce voyages, scale back grand feasts, temper investment hazards. He assents, he concurs, he vows restraint. Then a flawless prospect emerges. A gadget bound for triumph, a speaking circuit poised to mend all. A deal too solid to fail. The help spot's subtle cues, dialogues that halt upon an intruder's step. Clemens striding the study rather than perching at his workspace. Olivia's strained grin at the Daily Post. One servant whispers to a colleague, _6_. The children perceive it as well, Susie most acutely. At 17 by 1889, she discerns her father's remoteness. Her mother's stiffened expression post-departure of callers. In her diary, she notes the unease permeating the air. Still, The charade endures. Evenings illuminate the abode. Affairs proceed. To locals and guests, the Clemens clan remains Farmington Avenue's premier, most thriving abode. In the study, Maya spots a facsimile of Clemens's note to Olivia, exhibited for view. She bends closer to peruse it. He outlines how a fresh stake will pay off, how the impending tour will staunch losses, why fretting serves no purpose. The inscription reads, 1891. Maya is well aware of how the story unfolds from here. The publishing venture will crumble. The typesetting invention will flop. The mounting debts will overwhelm them, and in just 5 years, Clemens will be forced to abandon this home forever, embarking on a frantic worldwide lecture circuit, merely to settle his creditors. Yet before that economic ruin strikes, an even more devastating blow will shatter the family. Her gaze shifts to the staircase. Susie's bedroom lies upstairs, beckoning. The mansion is on the verge of discovering the weight of sorrow. Chapter 5. The empty bedroom. Maya ascends the steps at a deliberate pace. With merry guests, the study where Clemens desperately pieced his life back together as finances eroded. But evasion is no longer an option. She must confront the chamber where everything unravels. Susie's bedroom occupies the far end of the upstairs corridor. The door hangs ajar. Afternoon sunlight slants through the pane, illuminating specks of dust floating lazily. Maya enters cautiously. The room feels more compact than she'd pictured. A lone bed draped in a plain white spread. A modest desk positioned near the window. Wallpaper adorned with softened pink and green floral patterns. A low shelf lined with bound leather books. A single chair bearing a folded dress across its backrest, artfully arranged by curators to imply a momentary absence. But Susie Clemens never returned. She passed away in this very spot. August, 1896. The household is dispersed. Clemens and Olivia are abroad in England, engaged in a lecture series as their final bid to alleviate the burdensome debts. Clara travels alongside them. John remains with acquaintances elsewhere in the country. Only Susie has made her way back to Hartford. At age 24, she spends that summer in the residence, cared for by the family's old housekeeper. She yearns for the comfort of home. The physicians initially misdiagnose it, but the housekeeper dispatches frantic wires. Urgent pleas. Return immediately. Susie is gravely ill, yet the ocean stretches vast between them. Cables transmit messages, not people. Clemens and Olivia hastily secure tickets for a voyage home, though crossings demand several days. They beseech fate. They endure the delay. They cling to the wish that the following dispatch brings improvement. In Hartford, Susie's temperature soars. Delirium sets in. She cries out for her mother and father. She can't fathom their absence from her side. The housekeeper remains vigilant through the nights. Physicians arrive and depart. Their treatments prove futile. The space transforms into an invalid's quarters. Vials of remedies accumulate on the bedside table. Cool compresses wait to soothe her brow. Drapes block the intrusive glare that aggravates her vision. Her desk lingers untouched in the alcove, strewn with unfinished writings, poems in progress, unsent correspondence, a diary chronicling her aspirations for the future. She envisioned a career as a vocalist, perhaps in opera. She possessed genuine skill. She harbored ambitions. She teetered on the brink of maturity, poised to claim her spotlight. Instead, she slips away in her girlhood sanctuary on August 18th, 1896. She's not entirely isolated. The housekeeper and a handful of staff attend her, but her parents remain distant across the sea. The wire that intercepts Clemens and Olivia mid-ocean is stark and conclusive. Susie has passed. Clemens shatters utterly by all accounts. Olivia crumples in despair. Clara is devastated. Upon docking at the subsequent harbor, they reverse course and hasten toward the States. But the services have concluded without them. They're arrived too late for consolation, save for mourning. When the clan at last re-enters the Farmington Avenue dwelling, the once vibrant abode now carries the scent of loss and fading blooms. Mourning arrangements linger in profusion throughout the interior. The atmosphere hangs thick, irreparably altered. Clemens wanders his own domain as if a stranger. He approaches Susie's doorway and halts, unable to cross the threshold. Olivia ventures in briefly, then seals it off permanently. The portal remains barred. The residence itself seems afflicted by misfortune. Each nook preserves echoes of young Susie, racing along the landings, giggling amid library shelves, tinkling keys in the parlor. But innocence has fled. She's vanished, and the haven meant to shield her offered no defense. Soon after, Clemens and Olivia depart Hartford. These confines prove unbearable. Walls close in oppressively. Passages murmur of their bereavement. They never inhabit the place as a unit again. Not meaningfully. The grand estate on Farmington Avenue, erected as a bastion of stability and endurance, now stands as a testament to collapse. Fortune has evaporated. A child has been taken. The illusion of forging an impenetrable barrier against calamity has dissolved alongside her. Maya lingers in Susie's chamber, eyes fixed on the vacant mattress. Her mind drifts to her father's residence. How swiftly they offloaded it. How the family shunned those interiors in the wake of his death. A structure's swift transformation from sanctuary to cage, triggered by one devastating absence. Below, the museum's operations wind down for the day. The tour guide's words drift upward softly, concluding the final group. Doors swing and latch, footsteps drag toward the doors. Maya casts a parting glance at the desk for writing, the volumes lining the shelves, the pain through which Susie likely gazed across Hartford, envisioning a future that slipped away, unrealized. With that, she moves into the corridor and eases the door shut behind her. The opening scene concludes. The vision has crumbled. Beyond the stairway lies something more shadowed. Chapter 6. As she exits the upper level, Maya makes her way down the steps, returning to the entryway where the tour started much earlier. The place is deserted now, save for one employee preparing to secure it for the night. The quiet carries a new weight compared to dawn, denser, more conclusive. She ponders the nature of this hush in 1896, once the Clemens household had departed Hartford, toward the close of that year. The residence on Farmington Avenue looms with its panes unlit. Within, furnishings huddle beneath coverings. Fireplaces lie chill. No flames flicker in the grates. The servants have been sent away. The household has vanished. Clemens and Olivia find the thought of re-entering unbearable. Each chamber evokes Susie. Every passage resonates with her laughter. The dwelling they constructed as a shield for their loved ones has morphed into the site of their child's passing, yet it remains in their possession. They continue covering the property taxes, and the burdens persist, enormous liabilities from the bankrupt publishing venture, the futile typesetting apparatus. Decades of expenditure, as if the funds were inexhaustible. At 59, Clemens is insolvent, mourning, renowned yet economically devastated. The remedy proves harsh. He resumes touring. Speaking engagements span America, followed by Europe and the globe. Town by town, lodging by lodging. Evening by evening he commands the platform, drawing amusement from audiences even as his spirit echoes empty inside. Olivia accompanies him. Clara joins as well. Jean remains with kin. Her fits render extended trips hazardous. The unit becomes nomadic. They lease flats in London, Vienna, New York. No location holds them for extended periods. They possess a grand estate in Hartford, yet exist from suitcases like the rootless. Earnings from talks trickle in gradually, show by show. Clemens settles with lenders incrementally, resolute in erasing each obligation. His integrity requires it. His dignity insists. The process stretches over years. All the while, the property remains idle. Eventually, a proposal arises to lease it. Such an estate can't languish vacant. The mortgage demands attention. Levies arrive regardless of occupancy. Should the Clemens kin refuse to reclaim it, others might. Clemens consents with hesitation. Olivia vows never to revisit Hartford. Thus, the decision rests solely with him. The initial occupants arrive in 1897, a commercial clan, dignified and subdued. They execute the agreement and dispatch regular payments. The estate adopts new inhabitants. These newcomers traverse the very boards where Susie frolicked in youth. They rest in sleeping quarters, once filled with the aspirations of the Clemens girls. They dine in the space where Mark Twain once presided over meals. Yet they remain outsiders. The location holds no personal legacy for them. The celebrated author serves as a marketing lure, not a scar. The owner references him casually, omitting mention of the lost child, the botched inventions, the kin fractured by sorrow and insolvency. The chambers shed their narrative. One set of dwellers departs, successors take their place. The building receives basic upkeep, but lacks the affection of its originators. It functions now as an investment, no longer a haven. Clemens persists in his wandering. He authors works, he entertains, he forwards remittances, but he avoids any reference to the Hartford property in his writings. That era feels sealed away, too tender to approach. Olivia's vitality starts to wane. The perpetual motion, the anguish, the descent from affluence to anxiety. It erodes her. Her cardiac condition deteriorates. Certain days movement taxes her greatly. Clara remains by her side. Jen's episodes intensify. The group meant to be guarded by that imposing home atop the rise now drifts apart, ailing, clinging by threads. In 183, Clemens at last discharges his obligations. Each lender, each cent, his reputation stands redeemed. The press lauds his uprightness and tenacity, though the triumph rings hollow. He has reached 70, his spouse declines, his girls endure hardships, and he retains ownership of a Hartford dwelling whose entrance he swears never to pass again. In 184, Olivia passes in Italy. Not amid Hartford's familiarity, nor within the home she co-shaped and equipped, but in a leased abode overseas, distant from the town where she once sought enduring roots. Clemens fractures once more, profoundly. Upon his homecoming to the States, he avoids Hartford deliberately. Rather, he erects a modest new residence in Connecticut. He dubs it Stormfield and endeavors in his manner to rebuild anew. The Hartford manor endures as a rental. Time shifts, finishes weather, timber ages. The intricate carvings endure, yet a vital essence seems absent from the heart of it all. Maya glances at her phone. The museum has now shut down for good. The staffer approaches, his demeanor still warm despite the late hour. Quote, 7, he tells her. Quote, 8. She acknowledges him gratefully and ventures into the chilly November air. In her wake, Maya realizes. Proves far graver than mere than Maya realizes, proves far graver than mere neglect. It marks a gradual shift into an entity barely identifiable. Chapter 7. Peculiar Residents and Murmured Tales. Maya lingers on the pavement beyond the mansion, cinching her coat against the gusts. Viewed from this angle, the structure appears altered, loftier, sterner, with a Gothic flair that borders on dramatic. It's the sort of edifice that inevitably gathers legends, regardless of intent. She ponders the array of inhabitants who occupied it following the departure of the Clemens household. Outsiders reclining in Susie's chamber. Youngsters scampering along the very steps that once bore a casket. Fresh households forging new recollections within spaces still shadowed by lingering sorrow. Were they aware of it? Did it touch them? In Hartford, during the early 1900s, the property switches owners repeatedly. One occupant departs, another arrives. The dwelling turns into a cycle of fleeting existences. A merchant and his kin lease the upper level for 2 years. His offspring frolic in the nursery where the Clemens girls once pursued one another in play. Yet these kids differ markedly. Unaware of the past, they perceive it merely as a spacious, quirky abode with peculiar corners and excessive levels. The merchant's spouse confides to a companion her aversion to the parlor. An unease lingers there for her, overly vigilant somehow. She enters it solely when necessary. Below, yet another household occupies the ground floor quarters. A bereaved woman and her grown boy. They maintain a subdued routine, seldom hosting visitors. The son toils as a clerk in the city center. His mother remains at home, preparing meals in the kitchen that formerly sustained lively banquets and late-night callers. Come evening, she detects footfalls above. In the passages, faint, delicate patters, resembling a youngster's unshod steps. She brings it up to her son. He dismisses it casually. Aged structures groan, aged structures shift, nothing more. Still the noises recur each evening, consistently in that identical corridor, with the same gentle rhythm. Eventually, the widow inquires of the property owner regarding prior dwellers. He offers a basic account. A renowned author resided here in bygone days, Mark Twain. Surely you've encountered his name. She probes further, softly. Was there an incident? He pauses, considering his words, then reveals that his child passed away in an upper room ages ago. But that's history now. The widow ceases her queries, though the steps persist in her ears. Gossip circulates gradually across Hartford. Folks start claiming the Twain residence is haunted. Neighbors exchange yarns across fences and in local stores. With every recounting, fresh elements emerge, embellishments that could stem from truth or fancy. Echoes of youthful giggles in vacant chambers, a silhouette on the stairs that dissolves upon a second glance, doors shutting unaided. A chill spot in the passage near Susie's former room. Help staff murmur in the scullery. One housemaid balks at ascending solo after sunset. Another quits abruptly, citing no explicit cause. The narratives expand with each added teller. Mark Twain's home evolves into Mark Twain's spectral abode. The departed girl morphs into a complete apparition myth. Authentic mourning twists into fodder for chills and grins. Neighborhood youth challenge one another to graze the entrance gate under cover of night. Adolescents gather on the walkway post-dusk, gazing at the panes, fabricating tales from imagined shadows. The edifice, erected as a bold emblem of achievement and contemporary ease, veers toward Hartford's premier Gothic yarn. In truth, matters remain plainer and more poignant. No specters possess the house. Instead, reminiscence haunts it. The burden of events transpired, the chasm between aspirations and life's harsh outcomes. Residents continue to come and go. Most endure for a year or two before departing. Heating the place costs a fortune. Its design suits everyday households poorly. The chambers prove oversized, overly stiff, tailored for a mode of hospitality long out of fashion. By 1917, Mark Twain has passed. He departed in 1910 without revisiting Hartford or confronting the spaces he once cherished. Jean perished in 1896, drowning in a tub amid a convulsion. Clara alone endures, and she harbors no attachment to the Hartford estate. She has carved her own path, her own dwelling. To her, this property is merely a holding, an entry in ledgers. Eventually, she offloads it. The fresh proprietors disregard heritage or emotion. Profit drives them. The structure sprawls generously. Its location appeals. Hartford expands, incorporating mills, workplaces, trolleys. They discern potential. Maya retrieves her phone and reviews the notes she took during the museum tour. The guide had glossed over this period hastily, as if reluctant to delve into it. Even after over a century, it appears folks still feel uneasy discussing the ordeal the residents endured. The very home, constructed by Mark Twain. The place where pivotal American literary masterpieces came to life. The dwelling that harbored sorrow, desertion, and tales of the supernatural. Now that identical structure faces dismemberment. Maya stores her notes and heads back to her hotel. The following day, she'll return equipped with her camera to capture the building in its current state, revitalized and maintained. But this evening, she must grapple with the intervening events. What transforms a grand estate into a rundown boarding house? Starkly straightforward. Through successive choices, successive concessions, successive portions chipped away, until scarcely any trace of the initial vitality lingers beyond the outer framework. Chapter 8. Divide it. Lease it. Maya arrives the next morning with her camera in hand, yet she holds off on starting the recording. Instead, she lingers in her vehicle opposite the property, gazing at the mansion while envisioning an alternate reality for it. Substandard frames nailed over expansive openings, flimsy portals substituting for ornate timberwork. Slender partitions slashing across opulent chambers, elegance concealed beneath plasterboard, heritage buried under linoleum. That's the fate this site suffered for years. Hartford, 1918. The recent purchases summon builders. The directives are straightforward. Boost revenue from leases. Convert a solitary estate into multiple dwellings. Ensure no area goes unused for profit. Construction commences. Craftsmen traverse the interior, assessing the foundational design. The expansive drawing room proves excessive for one tenant. They erect a barrier through its middle, splitting it into two. A single area yields two living spaces. The intricate overhead design, with its stenciled patterns and hues, endures. Yet now it serves two separate families who might remain strangers to one another. The billiard parlor, once Mark Twain's writing nook, morphs into three modest workspaces. Fresh barriers emerge. The oversized panes get subdivided by dividers. Workstations supplant the pool table. Office workers and accountants occupy the spot where Huckleberry Finn took shape, pecking away at documents and piling account books. The majestic stairway persists, but its role alters. It turns into a shared corridor. Residents from various units cross paths silently. Their fingers graze the sculpted railing, now merely a handhold en route to inexpensive quarters. The study sheds its volumes. Racks are ripped away. The area gets partitioned into two tight apartments, each scarcely fitting a mattress and a modest desk. A shorthand typist leases one portion, while a mill laborer occupies the other. They divide a meager barrier and overhear one another's quarrels, ailments, and aspirations filtering through. The galley gets subdivided as well. Multiple burners, multiple coolers. Occupants utilize the historic area jointly, but prepare meals apart, mindful of time, aiming to avoid clashes in the dawn bustle. From the roadway, the edifice retains its stately appearance. Brick exterior, Gothic arches, encircling veranda. Internally, however, it evolves into a labyrinth. Tight corridors, sudden turns, entrances leading directly into others. Chambers that seem off-kilter since they were never intended in that configuration. The leases are affordable. That's the priority these days. Hartford expands. Laborers require housing. The estate offers refuge, yet stripped of respect, devoid of recollection, indifferent to its former glory. In 1923, a lone parent and typist called Dorothy secures a minuscule suite on the upper level. A lone chamber, a communal lavatory at the corridor's end, $50 monthly. She toils in the city center 6 days weekly. Returning drained, she heats her meal on a burner and perches at her tiny desk, transcribing additional tasks for extra cash. Evenings bring a sense of scrutiny, not from specters, but from the enclosure itself. The quarters feel too refined for their current degradation. She spots remnants of the antique wall covering emerging beneath fresher, inferior coats. The panes are aged and rippled. The planks beneath are broad and sturdy, unlike the flimsy materials in modern constructions. This space was crafted to endure, to signify importance. Presently, it accommodates a single pallet, a lone surface, a burner, and an existence, compressed into confines meant for grander purposes. Dorothy shares this sensation with her adjacent dweller, a senior fellow employed at an insurer. He agrees with a nod. "You sense this building had prominence once," he remarks. "It's akin to residing in a bridal gown repurposed into cleaning rags." The notion sticks with her persistently. Varnish peels in the passages. Sections of the veranda start to droop. Beyond, Hartford progresses. Equines yield to automobiles. Mills extend upward. Fresh commercial structures ascend in the business district. The mansion transitions from noteworthy to merely dated. Into the 1930s, the Great Depression exacerbates the decline. Leases plummet, upkeep halts, residents turn over more rapidly, tenants fall behind on payments, others skip them entirely. The owners give up on upkeep. Water seeps through the roof. Dark stains spread across the ceilings. plaster crumbles and tumbles down. The furnace rattles and sputters. During cold months, renters stay bundled in coats inside and pile on more covers at night. The structure fades away, gradually. Not through flames or ruin, but via countless small oversights. Each shortcut taken, each fix postponed, each season viewing it as nothing more than real estate, not a masterpiece of design. Dorothy leaves in 1935. She settles into a fresh apartment in the city center, more compact yet tidier, designed purposefully for living quarters. Upfront about its purpose. She keeps quiet about her time in Mark Twain's former home. She's unaware of it. The owner never mentioned the history, and even if he had, how would that alter things? The place she inhabited wasn't the famed Twain residence. It was merely one more spot where struggling folks fought off the chill. Maya raises her camera at last. She captures the drawing room in its current splendor, polished and radiant. She wanders into the library, the billiard area, the sweeping stairs. Yet, in her thoughts, the old dividing walls linger, the thin barriers, the budget paint, the gradual wipeout of every decision by the Clemens family. She ponders. Quote 9, quote, Chapter 9. The notice that nearly doomed it. Maya sets down her camera and approaches the window. Beyond, Farmington Avenue hums with midday vehicles. Automobiles glide by in unbroken streams. Walkers hurry across, clutching lattes and smartphones. Hartford has advanced beyond the 1930s, beyond the economic slump, beyond the era when this dwelling served as rundown rentals and fading workspaces. Yet the building barely survived to reach now. She pivots toward the interior, attempting to envision it vacant. Shutters over the panes, paper curling from walls, an official city tag on the entrance, declaring it unfit, slated for teardown. That close call to oblivion. Hartford, 1955. The estate nears 75 years and wears them all visibly. The chopped-up units are scarcely livable. The antique boiler conks out far more than it runs. The rooftop drips from multiple spots. Chunks of plaster rain from above in ghostly flakes. The entrance veranda droops and seems precarious. The latest proprietor is worn out by it. Fed up with constant fixes, renter gripes, and emergency heater summons in the dark. The property weighs him down like a liability, not an investment. Then a builder steps in with a bid, not for the structure itself, but the ground beneath. The plan is straightforward. Raise the battered manor, clear the site, erect something practical, perhaps a lot for vehicles initially, or a sleek business building down the line. The city craves parking spots. The city demands updated workspaces. The city, they claim, has no use for a rotting Victorian relic linked to an author few recall these days. Documents get prepared, approvals get submitted. Wrecking is slotted for the start of 1956, the home that endured Susie's passing, Samuel Clemens's exit, years of disregard and partitioning. That home stands on the brink of total erasure. But then a reader spots an article. Her name is Eleanor Brownell. She's 63, a library worker, a devoted Hartford local. She's observed the town evolve block by block, witnessed majestic edifices crumble while dull ones sprout up. She scans the Hartford Current each dawn over her brew. Usually, it's tales of local disputes, police briefs, social snippets, items that draw a glance, not a response. On a chilly November day in 1955, her gaze catches a brief item tucked away on page 7. Teardown planned for Clemens' site on Farmington Avenue. Eleanor pauses. She scans the phrase once more. The Clemens site, Mark Twain's abode. The spot where he penned Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn. The building she strolled by in her youth, back when it held its dignity and folks still chatted about the renowned household that once occupied it. Set for demolition. She places her mug aside and fixes on the page until the ink swims. Her fingers tremble. This won't stand. It can't. That residence holds Hartford's heritage. The nation's heritage. You can't flatten the site of Mark Twain's life and labors. You can't swap it for asphalt stripes. But she's only a librarian. What power does one individual hold? She starts with her circle. She phones acquaintances, fellow bookkeepers, educators, members of her congregation, whoever she believes might share her dismay. Her plea is direct and pressing. They're set to destroy Mark Twain's house. We must attempt to halt it. Many react with disbelief. That antique spot on Farmington. I never realized Twain resided there. That's the core issue, Eleanor replies. No one recalls. But absence of memory doesn't erase its value. She rallies a group. They name it the Mark Twain Memorial. Initially, it's 6 strong. 3 librarians, 2 instructors, 1 former reporter. In Eleanor's cozy living room, amid towering bookshelves and piles of newspaper clippings, the group convenes to map out their strategy. Their initial focus, sparking widespread interest. They reach out to local papers by phone, pitch stories to radio outlets, and fire off letters to editorial desks. Their central message cuts straight to the heart. Hartford stands on the brink of erasing its premier literary treasure. Are we willing to honor our shared history, or let it fade? Responses vary widely. Plenty of folks rally immediately. Preserve the residence, safeguard our legacy. Yet others dismiss the effort outright. It's merely an aging structure, they say. The city demands forward momentum over nostalgia. The property owner fights back fiercely, claiming the place is irredeemable. Fixing it up would drain a massive budget. Better to build anew than sink funds into ruins. Eleanor and her modest team counter with conviction. The framework remains solid. The visible harm is mostly superficial, crumbling stucco and faded coats of paint. Given substantial backing and meticulous labor, revival is feasible. Funding proves the toughest hurdle, though. Their coffers hold barely a whisper. Contributions arrive sporadically, like drop in the ocean. The owner issues a 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 strict cutoff. Unless the group secures substantial cash and delivers a credible strategy for upkeep, by March 1956, the wrecking cruise will proceed. No extensions. In the quiet hours, Eleanor hunches over her kitchen counter, scribbling estimates on a notepad with pencil and grip. Thousands are required. They've scraped together just hundreds. The shortfall looms vast. Doubt creeps in. Perhaps surrender is wiser. Perhaps the structure's fate is demolition. Perhaps holding on to history smacks of immaturity, and Hartford truly prioritizes lots for vehicles over a weathered Victorian relic. Her mind drifts to Mark Twain, to Susie's vacant chamber, to the countless households that once filled those rooms with joy, sorrow, abandonment. Preservation demands effort. Defiance requires voice. Memory must be voiced aloud. Gripping her pen once more, she drafts appeals to charitable organizations, to affluent clans tied to Hartford's past, to every donor etched on building dedications or exhibit labels. Among them, one missive will reach the perfect recipient and alter the home's destiny. She can't foresee it now. Seated in the refurbished library, Maya pores over a display panel detailing Eleanor's drive, the pane mirroring her features atop vintage monochrome images. It strikes her. A single individual, a modest article, a resolute act of devotion. At times, that's precisely what's needed to rescue an edifice. Nearly so. Chapter 10. A windfall and a setback. Maya pauses before a sepia-toned image mounted on the gallery partition. Eleanor Brownell appears there in 1956, positioned before the estate. She seems diminutive against the backdrop, her silver hair framing a face clad in a somber overcoat and practical footwear. The dwelling behind her shows clear decay, flaking exterior, damaged louvers, multiple panes sealed with plywood. Yet Eleanor beams, having triumphed improbably in the opening skirmish. Hartford, spring 1956. The teardown looms mere days off. Eleanor's band has gathered funds, though far short of the mark. They've garnered op-eds, community backing, stacks of pleas bearing hundreds of names circulating on tabletops and in reading rooms. Missing is the decisive element for lenders and the landowner. A solid fiscal blueprint demonstrating viability. Then an envelope arrives at Eleanor's doorstep. Heavy stock, elegant cream from a New York sender, one she'd contacted long ago and nearly dismissed. In her kitchen, coat still on from the chilly stroll, hands chilled by the local chill, she tears it open. Within lies a commitment, a generous gift, insufficient for full renewal, yet ample to stall the clock, enough for an initial stake, enough to convince the owner of their fiscal seriousness beyond mere emotion. Eleanor sinks into a seat. The note outlines the group's mission, supporting cultural legacies. Twain ranks as a pivotal U.S. author. His Connecticut abode merits survival. Aid is forthcoming. Eleanor begins calling contacts, fellow members in sequence. Urgent assembly this evening. By the stroke of 12, they've sketched a basic outline across her dining surface. First, acquire the site. Second, halt the teardown approval. Third, ignite a broader effort for genuine refurbishment, incrementally. The owner grumbles but yields to the bid. Cash speaks. The residence is secured at last. Front-page stories hail the Mark Twain abode's rescue. Eleanor fields broadcasts. The team lines up for snapshots. For a fleeting, radiant instant, victory seems sealed. It isn't. June 1956. Eleanor and her allies step across the threshold alongside designers and builders. They anticipated interior woes, drips from the roof, fissured walls, faulty electrics. Nothing could have braced them for the true state of disrepair inside. The intricate wooden carvings bear deep gouges and fractures. Whole portions have been torn away by former residents. Numerous stained glass windows lie shattered or absent entirely. Ornate overhead designs droop, marred by dark brown and black discoloration from prolonged leaks. The heating setup isn't merely outdated, it's completely non-functional. Pipes are corroded and hazardous. Electrical lines weave haphazardly across the spaces, flouting all current standards. Improvised partitions divide the interiors, obstructing the home's classic views. Certain floor areas yield underfoot, demanding structural support. The rooftop requires total renewal, beyond mere repairs. Even the base shows fissures. One of the architects surveys the devastation before facing Eleanor. Quote, 10, he murmurs. Quote 11, weeks pass before the financial projection lands. Reviving the property fully demands hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly exceeding that. The figures hit the group's table like a burden. Their initial funding covered the purchase and stopped the demolition. But resurrecting the structure? That's a whole different scale of expense. The team reconvenes. The atmosphere has changed. Initial enthusiasm has faded, giving way to a weary, resolute quiet. They've protected the edifice from the machines. Lingers in uncertainty, too vital to raise. Lingers in uncertainty, too vital to raise, too damaged to inhabit. A team member proposes passing it to someone else, letting outsiders shoulder the gamble. Quote 12, he notes. Eleanor refuses. Quote 13, she replies. Quote 14, another inquires. Eleanor lacks an immediate solution. The lender imposes fresh timelines, loan installments, coverage fees, routine upkeep expenses. Failure to cover them invites seizure. They initiate a fresh drive. This effort stems from steely resolve rather than zeal. Appeals to supporters, community lectures, modest gatherings in educational halls and parish rooms. Contributions trickle in, a $5 bill in one mailing, 10 in the next. An affluent local clan forwards a $1,000 draft. It seems substantial. Yet the shortfall remains enormous. Come fall, exhaustion grips the group. Photos from that period show Eleanor slimmer. Her posture bears a subtle sag. She's invested her hours, her funds, and endless vigor into the cause. The math refuses to balance. One night she lingers solo in the grand dining area. The expansive table has vanished. Surfaces show marks from prior dividers. Gaps yawn in the overhead. Moisture has twisted and lifted the planks below. She murmurs to the void. We've preserved you. I'm simply unsure if we can hold on. Beyond, daylight dips below the cityscape. Illumination fades from the panes. The dwelling retreats into gloom. Eleanor secures the entrance and heads to her vehicle. Dawn brings yet another lender discussion on funds they lack and terms they can't fulfill. She navigates home amid fresh commercial structures, squat asphalt expanses, and vibrant illuminated ads proclaiming advancement. In her wake, the manor perches on its modest hill, vacant, preserved, yet precarious. Delivered, but far from renewed, Maya concludes, perusing the exhibit label detailing this era. Staff label it the shadowed period, spanning 1956 to 1963, 7 protracted years of scant survival. Remarkably, the place endured. Maya senses the pull of the lingering mystery. She yearns to uncover what ultimately shifted the scales. Chapter 11. Layers of neglect and coatings. Maya traverses the revived manor with fresh perspective. Each flawless element catches her gaze anew. The gleaming timber, the vivid patterned vaults, the radiant colored panes, all once fractured, grimy, overlooked. Dedication from others rebuilt it all. element by element over countless seasons. That labor spanned generations. Hartford, start of the 1960s. Eleanor's group persists in the struggle. They've refused surrender, though victory eludes them. On most days, the manor remains sealed and hushed in anticipation. Funds come in modest amounts. Neighborhood fundraisers, student collections, humble contributions from Twain enthusiasts, occasional bigger contributions from groups valuing U.S. writing. It falls short of comprehensive renewal, but suffices to maintain essentials and sustain the vision. Thus, the team begins modestly, tackling spaces sequentially. Helpers arrive on off days. Former educators, learners from Trinity College studying history, area artisans offering their expertise gratis. They don work attire, carry their implements, and enter the grit. Initially, they address the gravest harm. Slender barriers that carved majestic areas into tight quarters come down methodically, board by board. Plasterboard and inexpensive wood get hauled away. With each layer removed, the authentic design emerges, akin to unearthing relics from sediment. A dedicated volunteer outlines the shape of the long-lost drawing room, the grand scale from long ago, plus intricate ceiling features buried beneath coats of paint. Quote, 16, he murmurs gently. Quote, 17. They start peeling away the paint, one stratum at a time. They experiment with tiny sections, aiming to avoid harming the surfaces below. Gradually, the Tiffany stencil designs on the ceiling emerge once more. Rich crimson, glowing amber, deep emerald, motifs unseen in sharp detail for about 50 years. Meanwhile, another group tackles the millwork. Intricate railings, moldings around doors, integrated shelving units. Certain elements are beyond repair and have to be remade entirely. A nearby craftsman examines vintage photos and leftover bits, replicating the motifs with precision. Structural experts shore up the building's integrity. Joists get bolstered. Foundation fissures are mended. The roof gets renewed in phases, adhering to the historic contours as much as contemporary options permit. Advancement crawls along. Grants come in fits and starts, then taper off. Certain periods grind to a halt due to lack of funds for materials. The residence lingers in a state of partial rescue. Then fresh funding gets greenlit, or a key benefactor emerges. Perhaps a business issues payment following extended discussions. Efforts resume. Maya captures footage in the library when a tour docent approaches her. "Did you know they discovered the authentic Tiffany panes in the cellar?" he mentions. "Just stored there, removed ages back and forgotten. Nobody thought to discard them. It's as if the building concealed its own secrets until seekers arrived." The revival effort carries on from the 1960s through the 1970s. Researchers hunt down every available image from the Clemens era. Precision counts in every aspect: wall hues, placement of furnishings, authentic lamps versus post-war swaps. Clues surface in records. Correspondence from Olivia on textiles and colors. Vintage periodical features displaying the interiors at their finest. Invoices for rugs, wall coverings, and pieces. Some insights vanish entirely. There, specialists offer educated estimates drawn from era-appropriate aesthetics and insights into the Clemens household's preferences. In 1974, a century precisely after the family's arrival, the property partially admits the public. Restoration isn't complete. It's incomplete, yet sturdy for guests and forthright in its display. Initial visitors traverse areas caught in transition. Certain zones gleam with recent fixes. Others stay rough, bearing lath and temporary frames. Docents avoid glossing over flaws. They detail accomplishments and pending tasks. They share the complete narrative, the happy times, the sorrows, the gradual decline, and the persistent campaign to preserve the home. Guests react warmly. They contribute via collection bins near the exit. They commit to helping out. They spread the word and return with companions. No grand climax unfolds, no ceremonial unveiling with fanfare, just persistent, unwavering devotion, a form of tenacious affection. Maya observes a modest team from a threshold. Even in 2024, the renewal persists. A restorer tends to a stained glass section with delicate, precise strokes. A woodworker smooths and mends edging in a third-floor space. The structure defies full completion. It must. Irreplaceable losses abound, alterations too numerous. Yet the surviving essence endures safeguarded, cherished, celebrated. She reflects on the 1960s helpers. Many have passed, some frail with age. They devoted lifetimes to this site, though most modern guests won't recall them. Eleanor Brownell passed away in 1982. She witnessed the opening, saw crowds ascending the stairs she battled to protect. Her far-fetched vision materialized. She didn't outlive the total refurbishment. That labor endures. Maya records the foyer for a final shot. The sculpted steps, the colored glass, the adorned overhead. What stirs her deepest isn't the splendor alone, but the toll of reclaiming it. The time, the resources, the conviction that shattered elements can reassemble into unity. Flawed, eternally flawed, but unified sufficiently. Chapter 12. Shrine, the journal beneath the floorboards. On her third day at the estate, Maya shoots off camera content alongside museum personnel. A conservation expert called Robert leads her to restricted zones, archive areas brimming with tagged containers, benches laden with implements and delicate remnants. At last, the upper story, quote __20, Robert notes while ascending the tight staircase. Quote 21. The garret feels cramped and grimy. Sunlight filters via petite gable panes. Sturdy rafters span above. Against the sides, crates form irregular piles tagged by era. Robert inspects for storm-induced harm, probing for moisture intrusion and weakened areas. Maya trails behind Robert, her camera capturing the bare rafters, aged insulation, and the accumulated layers visible from beneath the roof. Folks often assume preservation work is merely cosmetic, he explains. In truth, it's about piecing together the past. You start interpreting the structure as if it were a narrative. He drops to his knees beside one edge where a few floorboards stand out from the others. Take a look at this. These appear to date from the 1920s, I'd wager. The timber's distinct, as are the fasteners. If you're attuned to it, the building maintains its own chronicle. He tests one plank with his palm. It wobbles a bit. Unstable, he murmurs while scribbling a reminder. Maya props her camera on an adjacent crate and assists in prying up the board. In the dim space between the beams, a faint gleam draws their eye. A petite journal, marred by water, its leather binding faded to near black through years of dampness and time. Robert extracts it with utmost care. The sheets adhere stubbornly, the bindings barely intact. "This doesn't belong up here," he whispers, his voice shifting subtly. They transport it downstairs to the preservation workshop. Donning protective gloves, Robert treats the item as fragile as ash. With a slender implement, he separates the folios incrementally, tiny measures at a time. The script within is pale, yet discernible. Graphite, not pen. A feminine hand, precise and compact. Maya edges nearer. The initial mark date is 1922. The author uses mere initials. E.M. She's a lodger. She pays $12 monthly for a modest third-floor room. The notes are concise. Jottings on grueling workdays, on returning drained, on brutal winters, requiring sleep in outerwear and stifling summers where warmth lingers beneath the eaves, on neighbors audible through flimsy partitions but never truly encountered. One note freezes Maya in place. March 8, 1923. Mrs. Patterson claims a renowned author once resided here, yet I doubt it. This dwelling feels too desolate and worn for celebrity. It seems like a spot abandoned by the world. I sense my own obscurity within these walls. At times I wonder if the house comprehends. We're merely biding time together. Several months on, a further note, September 14th, 1923. Departing in the morning, located more affordable lodging in town. No regrets for this spot. Overly vast, hollow, and spectral all at once. Still guilt nags at me as if I'm deserting a being no longer able to fend for itself. The last line states, quote, 23. Should we include this in the collection? Quote 24. Absolutely. It's part of the building's legacy. Quote 25. This place started as a vision. I believe it signifies our decision to hold on to the past. My grandma resided there in the 1930s. She never mentioned it was Mark Twain's home. She only described it as chilly and melancholic. Thanks for honoring her story. Another shares. We're facing foreclosure as a family right now. Your video brought tears, but it sparked hope too. Homes can rebound. Families can endure hardship. As someone in historic preservation, this captures the essence of our mission better than anything I've encountered. It's less about the architecture and more about ensuring narratives don't fade away. The Mark Twain House and Museum gets in touch. They're eager to incorporate Eleanor's diary into a fresh exhibit, chronicling the building's complete history, spanning every period and phase of occupancy, beyond merely the Clemens era. Maya agrees without hesitation. She heads back to Hartford for the launch. Close to the main doors, they've set up a modest yet meticulous installation. Eleanor's journal lies in a temperature-regulated enclosure. Nearby sit images of the house from its boarding house days, plus a roster of verified tenants from the 1920s and 1930s, pieced together from municipal archives. Above the exhibit, in bold lettering, appears a lone excerpt from the diary. We existed here too. That should count for something. Student tours stop to absorb it. Visitors snap photos with their devices. Several longtime Hartford locals start recounting their personal ties to the site during its conversion into rentals and workspaces. A 93-year-old lady approaches Maya and says, "My dad leased an office in this building back in 1941. I came by once as a child. It struck me as the most sorrowful structure I'd ever laid eyes on. So elegant, yet so fractured. I'm relieved it's been revived," she murmurs. Maya shares that relief. She reflects on the myriad ways residences linger in our minds, not through spectral presences, but through echoes of the past, burdened by all they've endured and sheltered. This one has borne witness to delight and despair, triumph and collapse, affection and neglect, celebrity and near-complete obscurity. And remarkably, defying the challenges, it endured it all.